The ambulance was piercing the heavy Friday evening traffic. It started raining, and the light of the headlights was turning the raindrops into millions of fireflies. Alex sat quietly beside the driver, completely absent from the noise around him. The chorus of his thoughts covered the strident, monotonous voice of the siren. What is awaiting me this time? Will it be too late? Despite the answers to these questions, Alex knew that it was worth it. For the past 7 months since he started working as a paramedic, he witnessed all kinds of tragedies: suicide attempts, terminal illnesses, car accidents, murders, drownings, and sometimes death. Every encounter left long-lasting memories, difficult questions, and a sense of helplessness, which he never felt before he took up this job. In fact, for Alex, this wasn't a job, it was a new way of living. He felt like a character in a story written by someone else, a story full of suspense and surprises, a story over which he had almost no control. He felt more of a witness than a hero. Alex felt that the vehicle was losing speed as it left the main road and was heading towards a modest yet clean neighborhood, not far from his primary school. "Almost there," announced the driver with a sense of pride in his voice. He played his role with confidence for the past 15 years, knowing the streets in his town as well as the back of his hand. As Alex unbuckled his seatbelt, he felt once again the familiar mix of compassion, curiosity, eagerness, unease, and above all an intense sense of moral and social responsibility. In those moments, he was only a paramedic in the service of humanity. He ceased being anyone's son, brother, or friend. He was the incarnation of an idea, of a role, of a duty. He grabbed his bag and started climbing the narrow stairs of a 4-story building, followed closely by the driver. The corridors were quiet, and the air smelled intensely of naphthalene. He stopped on the 3rd floor, in front of a white door from which the paint was peeling off, forming irregular patterns. He knocked and waited for a sound, but none came. He pressed on the handle, and the door opened with a creak. As they entered the apartment, they were met by a heavy, ominous silence. The only dim light, coming from the bedroom, was inviting them to get closer. Alex entered the room and found an elderly lady lying in a narrow bed covered in white sheets. Her long hair was completely white, seamlessly blending with the sheets. Her eyes were closed and her serene face was turned towards the open window. If he wasn't a paramedic, Alex could have thought that perhaps she fell asleep waiting for them. Instinctively, he touched the side of her neck with the tips of his fingers. "No pulse," he announced while he positioned the heels of his hands on her chest. He started pressing down rhythmically, following a steady pace, his mind empty of thoughts. Sweat started to cover his forehead, dripping off his nose and the side of his cheeks like tears. He had to go on. Since he started working as a paramedic, he was evaluating time differently. Before, he was calculating minutes and hours. Now, he was calculating seconds, and each second was pregnant with something different. No 2 seconds were alike. "It's been 30 minutes, said the driver in a low voice, as if he was the messenger of death itself. Alex did not feel the tiredness in his body, but in his soul. He felt defeated and very small. He has come once again face to face with that force which he did not fully comprehend, but in front of which he had no alternative but to submit. He straightened his back and wiped the sweat off his face. He gradually started noticing the big mirror in the corner, the chestnut wardrobe, the little desk next to the window. Alex noticed a phone next to the woman. She must have called the ambulance herself. A deep sense of sorrow washed over Alex as he imagined the loneliness of the woman facing death alone. Alex looked through the open window and saw, through the shiny curtain of raindrops, some of the people in the neighboring buildings, having dinner, watching the news, playing with their children. They had no idea how fortunate they were in those moments. Just then a spotted cat emerged from under the desk, jumping on the bed. She curled next to the woman, waiting to be petted, but her hand remained inert like that of a statue. "We need to take the cat to the animal shelter," proposed the driver. As Alex turned to exit the room, his eyes were caught by a rather clumsy drawing hung on the wall in a thick wooden frame. It was the portrait of a woman. Despite the inexperienced author, one could guess that the woman was beautiful, at least in his eyes. Her long, dark and wavy hair occupied most of the paper. And although her green eyes were uneven and her lips were too small for her face, the portrait was emanating harmony and calm. Alex felt tears flooding his eyes. He was taken 25 years back when he was a 10-year-old poor boy in primary 4. His teacher's birthday was approaching. Her name appeared in his mind like a bright candle, Miss Ada. His colleagues were boasting about all the expensive gifts they were planning to offer Miss Ada on her birthday. But he knew he won't be able to ask his father for anything. After his mom died of cancer, Alex and his dad lived a very simple life. They were not truly living, they were just surviving. Alex loved to go to school because Miss Ada treated him kindly and always defended him from the harsh words of the other children. Alex fondly remembered the day he drew her portrait. It was a spring sunny day, and everyone was playing in the schoolyard. Alex had sneaked back into the classroom and started working on his humble gift. Little by little, color after color, his gift began to look like what he had imagined. Alex smiled as pride filled his heart. Excitement did not allow him to sleep much that night. When he arrived to school the next day, he watched with surprise the kind of gifts the other children brought: magnificent bouquets, chocolate boxes, bottles of perfume, plush toys, books. He suddenly felt embarrassed of his drawing. He waited in line for his turn to come, feeling ashamed of himself. He wished his father had a good job, so he could buy Miss Ada a beautiful blue scarf like the ones he saw in the shop next to the school. When his turn finally came and he offered Miss Ada his gift, some of the kids started laughing and making fun of his drawing. Miss Ada taught them that day that the value of a gift is not measured in money. The flowers withered, the perfume was used, the chocolate was shared, the toys got old. But the portrait was her favorite. It reminded her of the pure heart of one of her students.